Well, here we are. It is March 21st, 2024, and this is the video I talked about doing the end of last week to cover the Hindman Feeman sales that are coming up in just about a week from now. You have enough time to get over there. They have an online component to the sale, and then they have two live sales. They have a Chinese and Himalayan works of art sale and a Japanese and Korean works of art sale. And they've done a really good job with it. There's some nice examples in there. There's some very good paintings. There's some nice ceramics. And I'm going to go through it. I'm going to go through it and just sort of, these are some of the things that caught my eye as being interesting. There are things that are more expensive. There are things that are less expensive. But these are some of the things I like. That's the only way I can really do these videos. I have to spot things I like. All right. And the first thing I'm going to mention was that right now the online sale is happening. And it closes on the 28th of March, so you have plenty of time. They've got some nice monochromes in the sale. They've got some nice Tang pottery. There's some good stuff in there. There's some things from the Billings family, who he's a collector on Nantucket, and I guess he's passed away. I didn't hear about it, but apparently he did. I can't imagine him selling the collection otherwise, unless he's moving into assisted living or something. He's a very nice man, and he used to do help out the Nantucket Historical Society with doing exhibits of his collection and China trade and all that. Good guy. Talked to him a couple of times. At any rate, there's that sale, and then there's the Chinese and Himalayan works of art sale, which also has some of the Billing stuff and a bunch of other people. There's all kinds of interesting stuff in the sale, but aesthetically it's very appealing, a lot of the stuff that they have. As you can see, the beginning of it, they start out with early pieces, Tang pottery, Han wares, and so forth, Sung black glaze, celadons, and so forth. Some nice celadons in here, and we're going to get through it and get into some of these objects. All right, the first thing I want to talk about is this. This is a painting that's been attributed to Yun Shouping. And Yun Shouping was a very, very famous Chinese artist. He was born in the 1630s toward the end of the Ming Dynasty, and he died around 1690, sort of in the middle of the Kangxi era. And he did this very long scroll, or they believe he did it. It's attributed to him. This very long scroll of Chinese flowers. Many of them are very auspicious, of course. And the one that jumps out at you right in the middle, for the Buddhists in the audience, is that giant lotus. And then it goes along over, and there's a wonderful one with chrysanthemums on it. This is sort of the beginning of it. There's the lotus blossom, and there's plum blossoms, and all kinds of flowers on here. And there are some signatures that lead them to thinking it's by the artist. And then this last one is this spectacular peony. And this peony, though, is very much done in the manner that they did them at the beginning of the sort of in the Yongchen to Qianlong period too. But this technique, absolutely elegantly done. And this may have been the inspiration. This style of painting from this period may have been the inspiration for some of the decorators in the imperial palace during the Qing dynasty, because they certainly got their ideas from all kinds of places. Estimated at $4,000 to $6,000, $2,000 to $1,000 opening bid. Seems reasonable. And then there's this, an embroidered silk table screen, or floor screen they're calling it. But it's only 26 inches tall, so I suspect it more likely was meant to go on a home, like an altar table in a house or something, rather than be put on a floor, unless the people were incredibly short, because it's only 2 feet and 2 feet 2 inches tall. But it's a wonderful thing. It's beautifully carved. The silk work on it looks excellent. And the estimate is reasonable. The estimate is $2,000 to $3,000 starting price. This is auctions on the 26th. It's in 5 days from now, so you have time to get in touch with them tomorrow and Monday. It's already got a bid at $1,000. I think this will probably do better than that. This is a nice package. I would think $5,000 to $7,000 would be more reasonable, but we'll see. We'll see. You know, it's very hard to predict prices these days. And then over to this Tielmu wooden carved dragon box with a Shao character on the top and lacquer interior. Now, this is a big box. This box is 13 or so inches in length, so it's a nice size low table box. And the quality of it is just as on the front. It's all around it, all the way down, both sections, upper and lower. Spectacular quality. And I'm going to say a number of years ago, about 10 or so years ago, I had a pair of these, very similar boxes. And as I recall, we sold them for $25,000 to $30,000 at the time, somewhere around there. So don't be surprised if this one takes off a bit. Now that was, the market was maybe was a little stronger back then. They've got this one estimated at 3,000 to 4,000 with a $1,500 starting price. There's a bunch of watchers. I think it's going to do pretty well. I expect it'll go a good bit beyond that estimate. It looks like it was probably made in the first half of the 19th century, maybe late Chai Qing or Daoquan period. But beautifully, I could have even done it in the 18th century. There's no way of really saying, based on the photographs. You'd have to handle it to get a more of a handle on the age. But they're dating it as, how are they dating it? They're just dating it as Qing Dynasty. Yeah, that's sort of the problem with it. They're so well done. It could have been done by a very fine workshop in the 1780s, and it could have been done in a very fine workshop in the 1830s or 40s. So who knows? All right, and then this Kangxi period, Wucai decorated general jar, as they call it, General Jiangzhu Guan. Nice looking vase. Now this isn't a big vase. This form we normally associate with, it's a jar actually because it doesn't have a lid, but this is a shape that you normally associate with jars that are 15 to 18 inches in size, sort of big presentation jars. This one is fairly small. It's 11 inches in height overall, and it has this wonderful French gilt bronze base to it. It belonged to a prominent Chinese physician in Michigan. I guess he was also a collector, obviously, and he had this, and it's in the sale. But I think it's a lovely package. It's a beautiful looking pot, nicely decorated with generals on it. They don't show a picture of the base, but I suspect it just has a double blue circle on it, most likely. The estimate seems very reasonable, $1,500 to $2,500 with an $800 starting price, starting bid. It's got a lot of watchers, though. A lot of people like this thing. It's got 65 watchers, which indicates this is probably going to go well through its estimate, I suspect. I suspect this will bring probably 6,000 to 10,000, somewhere in there. It's a beautiful example, though. It's a beautiful example. And it's worth 6,000 to 10,000. It's a wonderful thing. Maybe go even beyond that. And then they have this. This is a Femi Vert porcelain rouleau vase done in very much in the Kangxi style. It's a 19th century vase. It's 18 inches tall. And it has these story panels on it with calligraphy going around the outside. And it's very similar to a American period or a period Kangxi jar that's actually in the Peabody Essex Museum. It's one of their nicest pieces of Kangxi. And they paid a fortune for that. I think they paid 6 figures for that, from what I recall, through a benefactor. And there's the bottom of it. They got a Kangxi mark on it. But this is not a Kangxi jar, even though the mark is very convincing. This is a 19th century example. The estimate is $2,000 to $3,000. It's got 23 watchers. It's got one bid at 1,000 already, and it's probably going to go over the estimate. More than likely, it'll probably go for 3,000 to 5,000 at the end. May not. Hard to say, but I think it might. It's got a lot going for it. And then you have this in the porcelain area. This very, very nice Canton rose mandarin punch bowl. It's 15 inches in diameter. It's a rather bigger. It's on the bigger side of the punch bowls. It's nicely potted. The rim looks very even. The interior decorating, all that on it is excellent. The decor looks good. I don't see a lot of wear to the gilding, so it hasn't been abused too much, so you're not going to find probably a lot of damage with it anywhere. And the coloration overall is very appealing. I like the upper border with the flowers and the insects and the butterflies and all that stuff. And the estimate is $2,000 to $4,000, the $1,000 starting price. It's easily worth the $1,500 to $2,000 right off the bat, just automatically. And in person, it may even look a lot more appealing. You want to check it if it's in perfect condition without any wear to the interior, because they didn't provide a full interior shot. But if the interior of this bowl is as good as the exterior of the bowl and it's not worn anywhere, it's worth $3,000. Because it's a very nice big bowl. But do check it out. It may go for less, who knows. But right off the bat, leave $1,500 on it as a starter, just right off the bat. Don't even mess around with that. All right, and then this is the book by what was his Oswald Siren. And this was this famous set of books that was published back in the 1920s on 5th and 14th century stone carvings and sculpture. He was with the Swedish Museum. They didn't print many copies of this set. I forget how many there were, maybe 500 or 1,000 copies. That was it. And it's a multi-volume set, which is very, very hard to get. What happens with this set is you'll find one volume here and one volume there. They all have different looking color covers. They don't match and so forth. But if you've lusted after this series, which I know some of you have, you want to look into this. Here it is. He was with the Swedish Museum. They published this. Was one of the early books also on Chinese sculpture, and it was published in London. The estimate is it seems like a big estimate, 3,000 to 5,000. If you go to ABE Books and find a complete set of this, you're going to find the estimate for this set is probably, the selling price is probably 8,000 to 12,000, somewhere around there. So 3,000 to 5,000 auction estimate isn't bad. With a $1,500 starting price is nothing for this set of books. And there's one other set of books I want to talk about that we're going to get to from the Bauer collection. It's 4 volumes, very hard to come by. This is also really nice. It's a molded white glazed porcelain covered jar, as the title says, but unusual. And if you've been collecting for a while, when was the last time you saw one of these? It's very unusual, and it's dated 1888. Which is also extremely unusual. The decoration looks good. I don't believe it's Blanc de Chine. I believe it, or Dewa. I think this was made in Qingdechen. And they just glazed it white, because they did do white glazed porcelain there. But it looks to be very, very well made. Daoguan period, Guangxu period, rather. And there's the date panel down at the bottom. It's got a little metallic, maybe Paktong handle on top. I don't see any damage to it, and so forth. The estimate is $1,500 to $2,500, $750 opening bid. Now, this is the kind of thing you might be able to pick up, because in these sales, as I've said before, if some of the guys in China, if they can't find a comp for it or can't get some sort of support for bidding on it, they won't touch it. They tend to hit the low-hanging fruit, the hardest, the pieces that are noticeably known to be very rare, obviously rare. And sometimes when you get to the more esoteric things, they get a little shy, they get a little nervous. And I think this is something they may not be crazy about. I don't know. And it's a whiteware, which traditionally a lot of Chinese collectors wouldn't buy Blanc de Chine or whitewares for years because of the superstition and the association with death with the color white. Now they do. Of course, they long got over that by about 10 years now, 15 years. But this is a nice box, and I think the estimate and the starting price is very reasonable. Really do. It's nice. And then there's these. And now these came from the J.P. Morgan collection, and they are 18th to early 19th century underglazed red and underglazed blue dragon jarlets with these very nice stands. I don't know what they look like. They might be ivory, or they are a light wood that's been stained to look like ivory, and that's probably what they are. They don't say in the description, but I love these. These are absolutely great. And here's they threw the catalog in and where they were in the catalog and so forth. The estimate is very, very reasonable: $1,500 to $2,500 with a $750 starting price. Starting bid rather. It's got 46 watches, not a surprise. 18th century, 2 inches in height. These are very small. These are we're getting back into these little small miniatures that pop up every once in a while. It's always fun to see how well they do, because they are just lovely, and they're great little delicate examples. And these are beautiful. And again, good provenance, J.P. Morgan, and I think the estimate is low. I think they could double. I think you could get $1,500 to $2,500 for each one. All right, but we'll see. And then there's this Chinese persimmon glazed bowl with a Daoguan mark. It is marking period, I think, judging by the photos and how it looks. There it is. It's got some old sticker on there. But there's a nice white foot rim on it, beautifully potted, nice color, estimated fairly reasonably at $2,500 to $3,500 with a $1,200 starting bid. It's already got a bid. It's got a bunch of watchers. I think it'll do just fine. I think it'll probably go over 4,000, 5,000, but we'll see. You never know. But it's an unusual color. You don't see persimmon Daoguan bowls very often. So that'll be fun to check out, come back and visit. And then there's this very nice Chinese tea dust glaze, second half of the 19th century. It has a Qin lung mark on it, but I don't think it's right for that. And they're selling it as just Qing. And this came from the Billings collection on Nantucket. It's estimated at $2,000 to $4,000, which I think is very, very reasonable. $1,000 starting price, probably going to go over that. But nice looking piece of porcelain, and came from a nice old collection. And then there's this, the Chinese blue and white porcelain bottle vase, the Chongzhen period, leading up to the transitional era, Very, very nicely done. And this was sold by Marchance in London. It measures 9 inches in height. Very unusual type and form, though. Really unusual shape. And this was right at the end of the Ming Dynasty. Beautiful, beautiful thing. Let's see here, $6,000 to $8,000 estimate, $3,000 starting price. Seems reasonable to me. Seems reasonable to me. And then over here to this, another transitional period vase. This was sold by John Burwald, another good dealer in London for a long time. $5,000 to $8,000 or $5,000 to $6,000 estimate, $2,500 starting price. This is going to go, I have no doubt, unless this has got a lot of damage to it. How tall is this vase? 9 inches. This should go over that estimate. This should bring 7,000 to 9,000. Somewhere in there. It should go over the high estimate. Starting bid is just $2,500. That starting bid is a no-brainer. You know, if you put 4,000 or 5,000 on it, you're probably not going to get this vase. Any rate, it's a nice looking thing. And then over here, you got a pair of them, not too dissimilar from the previous example. These are a Kangxi period, of course, done based on a Middle Eastern metal form. Nicely done. Good long skinny necks. I like that. You want to make sure those necks haven't been broken because they're very prone to it. And these measure, I think, about 11 and 1/2 inches in height. The estimate is $3,000 to $4,000 for the pair. I think that's very reasonable. Starting price of $1,500 for both. They should easily get up to that estimate and maybe go a little bit over it. And then onto this, the big Kangxi charger. This is a beautiful piece of porcelain. There's very nice double bands of lappets going around it, just filled with a profusion of flowers, tons of cobalts everywhere inside this thing. It's like looking into a deeply blossomed bush or hedge. There's so much foliage here on that beautiful Kangxi blues. There's a picture of the back of it. And this was sold originally by Guest & Gray over in the UK. Very fine dealer over there for many, many years. Very well known. They've sold to institutions, and they're one of the good local dealers in the UK. And they come to America for shows too sometimes. $1,000 to $2,000 estimate. I think that's low. $500 opening bid. That's a no-brainer. It's 13.5, 14 inches in diameter, and you know, again, condition reports. But, you know, don't hesitate to leave $1,500 right off the bat just to get things started on this. This is a nice looking plate. Leave bids. I've said it. I've gotten emails from people in the last couple of months. I've gotten a lot of them, actually, people that just go around carpet bombing bids. They find a bunch of things they really like. They'd be happy to own any of them, but they don't know where to focus, so they just been leaving bids. And I got a couple of emails this week, so people got thrilled. They bought some very nice things for, you know, dinner and a cocktail money, that kind of thing. And then on to this. This is another one of my favorite things in the sale. And this came from the David Billings' collection too. It is a very large, this thing is 23.5 inches tall, Feiwa incense burner. And it's just elegant. It's just elegant. Simple, and it is Feiwa, but it's not the very intensely relief worked Feiwa jars that we're often seeing. This is a much subtler example with a lot of smooth surfaces and then bosses coming off of it with different decorations and Buddhist symbols on it. And this very lovely Fu lion on top, nicely proportioned ears, beautifully done top. That's a lovely example. And I thought the estimate and the starting bid was very, very low. $3,000 to $5,000 estimate with a $1,500 starting bid. This thing is 23 inches tall. It should double that. I can't imagine it not. And if you go around looking for Feiwa Ming jars from the early 1500s, mid 1500s, late 1400s, finding one in this style is going to be hard. It's a very refined type. I very much like it. And then also here, these are the books I was talking about before from the Bauer collection. The Bauer is in Switzerland. It's an amazing museum. Great collection of all kinds of things, and they publish these incredibly fine books. And these are detailed, great writing, great research, beautifully illustrated, and they always sell for a premium. And $2,000 to $3,000 to get these 4 books is very reasonable. They normally sell. I've seen them sell for $1,000 a piece at auction. because people want them because of their content. Starting price of $1,000, that's a no-brainer. Leaving $2,000 on it, I think, is a no-brainer and more. But it's worth getting if you're interested in buying books. Books are crucial. I know some of you buy books all the time because I hear from you. If you're not building a great library of reference books for Chinese things, you're only going to get about 40% of the story by going to lectures and going to previews and listening to videos. You want to get the books. You want to be able to look things up, especially specific books in specific categories. The general big book, the Arts of China, where they cover everything from 2500 BC to the Republican period. You're not going to get much out of that other than a very loose overview. But books, specifically on jades of a particular period, on bronzes of a particular period, of porcelains of a particular period, types of porcelains from a particular period, then you really, really get the picture. And you also learn the history, which is fascinating. The history of how all this came to be is a great part of the journey. And you don't want to just dive in for the most beautiful thing. You want to sort of enjoy the story that went with it, all the interesting stuff that went along with it. That's my view of it. So at any rate, take it for what it's worth. Now we get to this. This is one of the big things in the sale for a couple of reasons. This is a painting that they've attributed possibly to Tang Yin. Now, the reason they say that was that it got an inscription on one end and so forth. But I think the more interesting part of this thing was this painting was bought by Frank Lloyd Wright. And it was installed in one of his houses. And they have the history of we'll come back to the painting in a second. But there's an ownership history here that's quite fascinating. Come on, get through the pictures. There we go. And this is the room that it was in the Frank Lloyd Wright, one of the Frank Lloyd Wright houses. And this is the house. It's that very, very famous place. What is it? It's in Michigan or Chicago or someplace. It's been in all the Frank Lloyd Wright books, and it was actually, maybe it was his house for a while. There was a lot to do with this property, but it's spectacular. And I'm going to see what it says here. Came from the Eisner family in Milwaukee, and it was originally acquired by Frank Lloyd Wright for the Bach House. That's right, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, not Michigan, Milwaukee. And at any rate, it's a really terrific painting, and if you bring it in and blow it up, the artwork on it is just exceptional. All right. Beautiful colors, beautiful condition, all framed, ready to hang. It's a horizontal scroll, obviously, but the wonderful, wonderful work on it. And they give the dates of Tang Yin of 1470 to 1524. And so forth. To me personally, it looks like it might be, but it could also be early Qing as well. Very fine early Qing painting. The estimate is 10 to 20,000. I think it's worth every penny just for the provenance and the history of it and where it's been. $5,000 starting price. It's in great condition. You have to decide though, but it's awfully good. It's got a good number of watchers. We'll see how it does. And on to this. This is another one, Anonymous. My favorite artist in the world is Anonymous. And this is a really great painting of a very simple painting, very, very wonderful aesthetic here of a simple bird on a sort of a craggy branch with flowers coming out in spring. And he's just sort of upside down observing his world. And I just like the whole layout of this thing very, very much. It's got some seals on it and whatnot, but they didn't attribute the seals as being anything authentic because the artists used to pass around seals like candy. It's estimated at $2,000 to $4,000, $1,000 starting price. Let's see, they don't say too much about it other than it's 16th century Ming and is a flycatcher on a red camellis tree, camellis branch. Very, very nice. I think that's a great thing. If you're looking for aesthetically a painting you never get sick of, that's the kind of painting that is. And I think the estimate for the joy you'll get out of it is a bargain. All right, and then over to this, some silk. There's some good silk in the sale. This is one of them. This is a brocade woven silk panel. It looks like a seat cover. A seat cover. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But no, I guess not. It's not. Doesn't seem to be cut. The partitions that don't seem to be there. But it's a beautiful hanging silk. Very shiny gold thread. With a foo line on it. Outstanding quality. Really, really outstanding quality. all the way around. And it's got a fairly strong estimate. No, I don't think a bad one. $3,000 to $5,000, $1,700 starting price. And this looks like an 18th century. They're dating it as 18th to 19th century. I think it's probably 18th century. But I think it's going to blow the estimate out. I think this will bring probably $6,000 to $9,000. It's a very attractive piece of silk, and it looks like it's an overall outstanding condition. And that's a big part of the battle. Outstanding condition and superb workmanship and big. This thing is over 60 inches long, 68 inches long or so. And then a pair of brocade woven silk dragon chair covers. These are chair covers. And the way the ways they're divided look better to me than the other one. But not necessarily better work. Just the division is more appropriate for a chair cover. Chair covers to go over the thing. Anyway, wonderful brocade all the way down, and they're in both in excellent condition. They have two panels that are still in great condition, because otherwise you'll get two of them, and one of them would be perfect or in good shape, and the other one sort of a tatty mess for some reason or another. But these all look to be very, very nice. Beautiful condition. And if you're a silk buyer, you want to check these out. The estimate for the pair is $4,000 to $6,000. It's already got a bid of $2,000, and as like the other ones, I think these are probably going to go $8,000 to $12,000. I suspect. We'll see. We'll see. You know, it's very hard to guess these things these days because the market's a little crazy. But these are nice. But I will say the sales in New York so far have been very encouraging. So don't be afraid. All right, now this blue Chinese ladies jacket, very nicely done, well-known type. You've all of you have been collecting for any time are very familiar with this one. It looks like it's in good condition. $1,000 to $1,500 starting estimate with a $550 bid at the current moment. It's already got a couple of bids. I think it started at $500. This is sort of one of these things that they always sell for on the very, very, very low side. 13 or 1400, and they have seen them sell for 2,000, 2,200. So I think the estimate is pretty much right in the right range. All right, and then over to the Japanese works of art rather. There's some nice pieces in here. If you're a fan of Hamada Shoji, there's a number of good pieces of his ceramics in there, and there's some very fine contemporary stuff that I'm going to get to, because I noticed that one of the sales earlier this week, I think it was Christie's Japanese Works of Art sale, the Japanese stuff did some of it, the contemporary stuff did fantastically well. So I think there's a very strong upcoming market for Japanese works of art, contemporary Japanese art. But one of the things I'm going to start first is this jumped out at me as just being a great piece of pottery or porcelain, and it's by Makuzo Kozan, and it's a very unusual bowl with the swirling bands in it. It almost looks like exotic Danish pottery. It's very cutting edge. I love the color. I love this color. This orangey, warm orange red, and how they did this spiraling into it in the glaze. This is some real serious underglaze skill techniques going on here. There's that very nice white, snow white foot that you see on his pieces. Now the estimate, I think, is very low. This is a 7-inch bowl. It's a good sized bowl. I think the estimate's very reasonable. $600 to $800 with a $300 starting bid. Yeah, I have to think this is going to bring more than that. This is a great piece of pottery. Aesthetically, just as a piece of ceramic art, it's beautiful, it's elegant, it's simple. And think about doing this design back in the Meiji period. People would have been shocked. What is this? What is this amazing looking thing? This has almost a sci-fi look to it. It's great. And then over to this, the painting, another painting by Anonymous, busy artist. And this is an interesting painting because it's a portrait of Masako, and she was the wife of a famous Japanese ruler, one of their provincial leaders in the 1500s, as I recall. And he helped unify Japan, and he and his wife became sort of favorites of the emperor. And she became so popular that he got insecure about it and picked up a bunch of mistresses. Made him feel better about himself. And she was sort of a take charge kind of lady, and she actually advised the Japanese government itself, which was very unusual at the time. She advised the Japanese government on strategies on getting supplies into Korea when Japan had invaded South Korea back then. And So it's an interesting woman of the day who became very famous in her own right for her. She was the daughter of a samurai. And there's a very interesting history. So if you have the painting, you can learn a lot about the person in it, which is always fun. And there she is. And the painting is an old painting. This is not a fairly recent painting. They're dating the painting to the 16th or early 17th century. So it was done pretty close to the end of her, around the time she died or just after. All right. And then over to this very nice Japanese lacquered carved stand. Late Meiji, early Taisho period. Beautifully done. And this would be a good display stand to put a vase on, a bronze or a porcelain thing, because it's not enormous. It's about 16 or 17 inches tall, but it'd be a wonderful display stand. And get a condition report on this. We want to make sure there doesn't have any cracks or splits in the legs. They haven't been pulled away anywhere, because that can happen. But if it hasn't happened, I think it's a wonderful thing to buy. $800 to $1,200 estimate, reasonable. $400 starting bid, already got one. And it's a good thing. It's a good piece of lacquer. Very, very attractive. And then over to this, another one of my little favorites, of course, is the elephant. And this is a lacquered wood elephant. It's about 9 inches long or so, maybe 10 inches. But just sort of a happy little fellow, just standing there with this beautiful lacquered band on his back, inlaid with mother of pearl. And this is all lacquered, sort of a grayish elephant skin color that they managed to do on wood. Very clever workmanship. And there's the mother of pearl and a piece of greenstone, not lapis. What's the other one? The green one. Never mind. You know what it is. I'm going completely blank today on that. $2,000 to $3,000 starting price. But what a great little fellow. Really great fellow. I don't think that's an unfair thing. It's a Meiji, it looks like a Meiji example to me. And then you have another one, a hardstone inset carved wood boxwood figure of a shishi. And this is big. This is 12 inches long. And it's meticulously done. Very lovely with Buddhist beads hanging down all around it, with an offering cup on his back. And just great. And the patina looks very nice on this. What are they dating it? Late Meiji? Yeah, they're dating it late Meiji to early Taisho period. It is 12.5 inches in length. It's estimated at $2,000 to $3,000 with a $1,000 starting price. If you love this thing, put $1,500 on it right off the bat. You're never going to get sick out of it. It'll look great on a shelf. He's big enough to be an eye catcher. When you walk into the room each day, he can greet you. He can greet you when you come home at night. And then over to this is a neat little lot. Now, the biggest bronze in this lot, 6 inches tall. But you have the gu form vase on the left, which of course is a Chinese form that the Japanese often did copy. And then you have this sort of drum form bronze in the middle. And then on the right, you have this very lovely leaf type cup, all cast in bronze. You get all three of them. This is the thing that's great. And they're fairly small, so they're 6 to 3 inches roughly in height. You get three of them, estimated at $800 to $1,200, $400 starting price. So, at the high estimate, you're talking about $300 or $400 for each bronze, which I think is very fair. This sale's on the 27th. I meant to mention that. Again, leave bids. Just go through here and leave bids. Leave $500 on this. You might get it. You don't know. Don't be ashamed. Never be ashamed of underpaying. Never be ashamed of that. If you get a bargain, be proud of it. There's this Kakiemon bowl. This is a nice early Kakiemon bowl. Very loosely drawn. I like the colors of it. I like the nice creamy white glaze. It's not too shiny. And there's the foot on it, and so forth. Very nice piece of porcelain. Estimated at $3,000 to $4,000, which is fine for Kakiemon. And it's a $1,500 starting bid. And it is, 5 3/4 inches in diameter, which is about always the right. They didn't make a lot of big Kakiemon pieces in the Kakiemon kilns. There were kilns later that used the Kakiemon enamels, and they made some big pieces. But Kakiemon themselves, with that famous milky, soft glaze, they didn't. And then there's the Amari sake bottle. This is a big bottle. It is 11 inches tall. It's not a 5 or 6 inch bottle. This is almost a foot tall, but beautifully done. 18th century, sort of lightly decorated, but nicely decorated. Very elegant, and then finished at the top. It looks like a great example. This was when the sale first went up. This was one of the first things I put on the watch list to remind me of this sale, because I just love this kind of thing aesthetically. It's so appealing. so appealing. $400 starting price, estimate 8 to 1200, but 11 inches tall, 18th century, and it looks to be early 18th century, if it makes a difference to anybody. And then there's this. Now there's a number of lots in here by this man, Kawase Shinobu. And he is a living Japanese porcelain maker. He was born in the 1953, I think the year before I was born. And he got a lot of his. He got very active in pottery in the 70s and 80s. His stuff is in the Metropolitan Museum as his things. There's a lot of museums that have his things in them. He's represented by a number of major top dealers in Europe. And his artwork, judging by the color, of course, is inspired by Sung Ruwares and the refined objects of the Sung dynasty in particular. And this is just a beautifully, the thinness, the delicateness of the potting on this bowl, and then this beautiful glaze, absolutely spectacular whenever it was made. And there's a side view of it. The quality of the workmanship here. If they had added enamels to it, it would be a distraction. Because when he did it in these colors, the shadows and all of the aspects that went into this bowl really come through, really come through. And these are the aspects of why institutions and a lot of very prominent collectors have bought his things. So if you're in the Japanese modern stuff has been doing well and I think it's a growing market, as I said earlier. I really do. I think it's got a growing market ahead of it. And this one's estimated $2,000 to $4,000, $1,500 starting price. That's very reasonable for his work. And if you're interested in that, you want to check him out. Check out his bio and so forth. He's highly regarded. He's one of the top living pottery ceramic makers in Japan today. And I think there's 3 or 4 or 5 lots in the sale. From somebody who had collected them a while ago. So anyway, so that's sort of the gist of it. Go back, go through the auctions. You can see that on Live Auctioneers. You can see it on the Doyle Feeman site. You can see it on Invaluable. But do start making requests for condition reports right now, because as they get close to the day of sale, it's almost impossible. Register if you're using Live Auctioneers and Invaluable. Do not try to register the morning of the sale. They don't always get to them. So register today for the sales. And you should do that with all online sales, always. When I see an item I like, I just register instantly for that auction, even if I don't go back to it, because I don't want to decide I want it at the last minute and have no options. So register right away. All right, that's it. I'll be back tomorrow with the regular weekly video. Thanks for watching. And remember, leave a bid. Leave a bid. All right. Bye-bye.